Recorded.
Hola seguidoras, seguidores del grupo Grite, ¿cómo están? Nuevamente en otro encuentro acá con Emiliano y con Alicia, que les da también la bienvenida a la gente que nos sigue. Nosotros estamos experimentando en estos momentos un momento bastante glorioso con respecto al cine de terror, en gran parte porque cada vez hay propuestas más interesantes. Entre esas propuestas interesantes está Buffet Infinity, una película grabada enteramente utilizando el recurso de pequeños avisos de canales zonales para construir una película de terror realmente muy interesante. Y hoy tenemos el honor de tener al director de Buffet Infinity, Simon Glassman. Welcome here.
Hello.
Hi, Simon.
Hi.
Bueno,
Hi, thank you for having me. This is really cool.
We're glad to have you here.
la primera pregunta es bastante obvia, que es, Simon, ¿cómo te acercaste al cine? ¿Qué es lo que te atrajo del cine?
So our first question is about your beginnings in filmmaking. What drew you to cinema in the first place, and maybe to horror and fantastic cinema in the second place?
Um, well, for me, I wanted to make sketches initially, and then slowly build my way up to making a feature. It wasn't really a financially realistic early on, so I ended up making a lot for probably before Buffet Infinity. I did sketch, stand up, and I worked as a cartoonist. And all like sort of it was a confluence of all those things that I feel like ended up working together to make Buffet Infinity. Because the movie itself is kind of about I feel like a restaurant that's struggling with its identity. And for me, I was kind of struggling with what the medium that I was most interested in for a long time. So as much as it's a horror movie and it's a comedy, it's also you get to see like Buffy Infinity's sort of artistic journey,
Mm-hmm.
growing as an evil entity.
So that's how you felt the progress of filming it on and your identity as an artist. Hmm.
I mean, it's sort of like my story, but told in like a very evil way.
Pasamos
¿Tu,
a la.
tu primer
Ujú.
acercamiento al cine fue con Felt Up, que es una serie de audios de personas contando sus historias personales que luego son teatralizadas con marionetas. Esa decisión de utilizar audios reales con marionetas crea una tensión muy fuerte entre realidad y teatralización, que está bastante cercano al absurdo. Quería preguntarte cómo concebiste la idea de Felt Up.
So one of your earliest projects was Felt Up. Kudos on the name, I find it really funny. A series in which real people tell their stories, which are then reenacted using puppets. This creates a fascinating tension between reality and theatricalization, often bordering on the absurd. How did you come up with that concept? And with the name, if you want to tell us.
First of all, thank you so much for doing your research because I have not talked about Felt Up in years and years. Partially because it's just like very inappropriate now, and no, it's yeah. I don't think that will ever be revisited or like yeah, there will be no reboots of that probably. But it was a pretty edgy thing at the time, and now it's just uh, gone. Uh, there's a long story about the process of making that, but in school I really liked listening to podcasts, and but I don't like paying attention to podcasts. So it's I like that there was a tension between visual and the audio, and that I think was like my biggest experiment with multimedia video production, where I I wanted to, I love making music videos. If you're a filmmaker, then it's like I mean, it's so easy to make a music video. It's so fun, and you really get like an incredible result by just understanding the rhythm of the music, and you can make it out of anything. And when I was in school, I was kind of just right on the precipice of the death of the music video, or like the death of like the music video director as like just a regular job. And I was kind of bummed out because that was sort of my dream. But I felt like I could edit to rhythm really, really well. And instead of using songs, I thought it'd be fun to use my friend's stories. I'm a big fan of the Muppets, and Labyrinth is one of my favorite movies. And really, it's like my favorite part is that the puppets are like good actors. You realize that like the voice is the thing that does pretty much all of the work. So the puppet just like moving around, that actually ends up it creates like the reality of like a very, very human voice speaking and like having, you know, breaks, ums and ahs, and it creates like a crazy tension between like not just like an animated show where it's like the cartoonist is trying to match the expression. It's like you can't really match the expression of what a real person talks like with a puppet. So it's like unreality and then extreme exact real reality together. It made like for somebody like myself who just like loves the uncanny valley, and or at the time I loved the uncanny valley. Now with AI, I hate it, but like at the time I thought it's just such a cool thing to play with. Um, I was kind of bummed out that we weren't able to make more of them because it really was like it's a pretty unique experience watching it. Like still like the last time I went through some of the YouTube videos, it's like this is really interesting, and like I kind of feel like there's more to be done there, but it will never happen.
Oh, what a pity. Yeah, then Cannibali is like the basis of horror, of most horror.
Yeah.
And this limit between what feels natural and familiar and what's slightly off. And yeah. Um,
Yeah, and like what you're able to empathize with as a person, like with puppets, it's like it's very easy to immediately look at a puppet and just think it's adorable. And then we had them doing these horrible acts of, yeah. You'll have to watch the show to know what I'm talking about, because I want to distance myself from it now.
it's on YouTube. So
It's in YouTube.
pasamos a la 3, Emiliano.
Sí, sí, gracias, Alicia. Bueno, Buffet Infinity o Buffet Infinity para nosotros tiene sin dudas un tono satírico que obviamente es importante para su desarrollo. Mi pregunta para él sería, ¿en qué cree que puede servir este procedimiento narrativo en función del público que tenemos hoy, ¿no? Un público que consume demasiadas imágenes al mismo tiempo, y también un público que consume mucho humor sin filtro.
So Buffet Infinity undoubtedly relies on satire as a central element of its narrative. What do you think satire can offer contemporary audiences, particularly audiences who are constantly consuming multiple streams of images and an almost endless flow of unfiltered humor?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that it's. Do you mind just mentioning the last part of it?
Yes, of course. What do you think satire can offer contemporary audiences, particularly audiences who are constantly consuming multiple streams of images and an almost endless flow of unfiltered humor? Like we are oversaturated with humor and images constantly. And now we have even the second screen phenomena. Like, what do you think this satire help to deal with this oversaturation of images we're dealing with?
Right. I think it's just like everything else, and it's just going to mean less. I don't think that satire is really useful, or I don't think it changes anything or changes anyone's mind. If anything, it actually like when something's satirized, then it's becomes more it creates like a greater impression in people's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like I work as a caricaturist, and like so I'm just drawing people's faces in a mean way. I think I'm going to be doing that later on tonight. So I'm satirizing the way people look and kind of the way people maybe even see themselves. And I'm not doing that because I want them to stop being themselves, you know. It is a type of satire. It's just it's yeah, to me it's just a type of art, and satire and like everything else just kind of is going to mean less and less as there's just like going to be a bloat of endless content that we can kind of create with our whatever app is going to be out there with AI. So I mean, I guess Buffy Infinity is technically a satire film, but it's not like a protest film. It's like it's taking all these different ideas and taking all the worst things that are happening right now and just imagining that they happened all together all at once um, in the late 90s. So I mean, yeah, I mean that's kind of a bummer uh, to talk about that. Like ultimately, like I just don't think that art is going to change people. I think it's like good as like a uh, you know as a thing to do. I think it's like cooking. Like it's like we have to do it, and it's part of who we are as people. But in terms of satire, it's just like I've never seen any instance of satire being like actually moving the needle at all in terms of making the world better. So but that's just my opinion.
Okay, it's usually a very political, it can be very political and it can make people think. I don't know if change the world, but making people think it's already a lot nowadays. Yeah.
I like to think the thing is that I like thinking that more than I believe it.
Hmm. Okay. Cambiamos a una pregunta más optimista. Emiliano.
¿No?
Sí, de todas maneras pensaba, ¿no? Un poco en otro nivel interpretativo, pero de la mano con esto que Simon estaba comentando. La película, por razones narrativas y de argumento también que no vamos a comentar acá, tiene un formato de un banquete interminable. Es decir, una recomendación se sigue de otra y la película es un encadenamiento de desafíos y apuestas al consumidor. Mi pregunta es, un poco ya hablaba de esto Simon, pero ¿cuánto hay ahí de crítica al consumismo y cuánto de esa imposibilidad de saciar el consumo debido justamente a esta repetición interminable de consumo?
So, the film takes the form of an endless banquet. One recommendation leads to another, and the narrative becomes a change of challenges, temptations, and promises directed at the consumer. How much of this is intended as a critique of consumerism culture, and how much is about impossibility of ever satisfying consumption itself, precisely because of its endless repetition, this idea that desire is something that perpetuates itself moving forward.
That's a really great question too.
Thank you.
So is it that sorry, one more time, just I had to process a whole bunch there.
Yeah, it is a very complex and very long question, sorry. So the question is, how much of this it's intended as a critique of consumerism culture, or are you talking about this idea that we never stop consuming and it's ever growing? I don't know, something, an image that impresses me a lot in the film is this idea how the restaurant starts like growing amorphly and over the city. It's like consuming the city. At the beginning, it makes sense. It's expanding, but at some point, it takes a form that it stops making sense. It's just consuming all the surroundings. So we wanted to know what it meant for you. What are the main topics for you in the film regarding consumerism?
Consumerism. Here's the funny thing, because I obviously it's pretty on the surface the consumerism, just critiquing consumerism, but it also like it is in many ways like kind of a pro-capitalist film, but it's not saying that is a good thing. It's just that that's all that there is. And this is also not me saying this, because there's also a time in the film where like my voice is not the main driving narrative. It's Buffet Infinity. So it's like, is Buffet Infinity the one that's saying this, and how much of the narrative is coming from the restaurant? But I mean, personally, I'm not. The big thing was that I was actually, you know, where a lot of the idea came from was during the pandemic, and they were all of the fast food restaurants in Canada were, it was a big deal that Uber Eats was delivering. So it's like, hey, you're in your house, but we're going to bring you food, so things are a lot better. And there was these commercials where like McDonald's was making itself out to be like a, yeah, really heroic for delivering McDonald's and not having delivery fees. But it's really like you're just it was just absolute, like actual poison that they were giving people during a pandemic. And it was funny how it's like they were able to make these commercials for us to eat the stuff that would make us much sicker. But because they have, like, you know, a marketing budget of, you know, just like a limitless marketing budget, they can make it pretty convincing, you know? Yeah. In terms of consumerism, I mean, I personally, yeah, I don't want to say too much about it, because I think it's like the film kind of does sort of leave it up to you, and it does end in like a really pretty happy note. And you know, I don't know. To me, it's like, is that Buffet Infinity saying like you should just enjoy the going to McDonald's and going to Disney World and the, you know, late stage capitalism. Like you only get to really experience your own feelings, your own life. So why not try and enjoy it, or is it manipulating you? And it's like the exact same question that McDonald's is asking you in every commercial.
Okay, now we understand where this idea of this ever-growing burger came from.
Ah, true.
Yeah, it sucks because I do like those burgers, but it is objectively very bad for you.
Yeah.
Yendo a otra pregunta, una de las particularidades que tiene el film, que como ya mencionamos, está compuesto por diferentes propagandas, en un momento toma un tono muy sombrío y a partir de ahí se va volviendo cada vez más sombrío. ¿Cómo decidió en qué punto el film debería comenzar a tomar un tono oscuro?
So most of the next questions are about Buffet Infinity. So what Fernando was saying is that at a certain point, the film begins to take a darker tone. And from there, it gradually becomes increasingly strange and unsettling. How did you decide when the film should begin moving into that weird territory?
Well, I wanted it to sort of mimic like somebody's artistic journey. And like I do stand-up comedy in Edmonton, and it's funny because stand-up comedy it's like the best version of, it's the best place to sort of observe people becoming creative or becoming like kind of finding their voices. That's why there's a lot of shows that are popular, like Kill Tony, and it's just exciting. Like I don't know if you guys have ever watched stand-up comedy, but it's like it's as exciting to see somebody bomb as it is to see somebody do really well. And through Buffet Infinity, I kind of am making like a sort of a love letter to that, because I don't do comedy that often, but I get to see like little tiny bits and pieces of somebody's creative journey. So I'll come in and I have a family and stuff, so I will come in like maybe once every couple weeks, and I'll see somebody go up and tell a joke about like, I love horses, and it's a joke about horses. And then like several months later, I'll go up and I'll see them and they'll be like, I love horses, and I also love, you know, drugs, right? And then you get a little insight, just a tiny piece of who they are. And then a few months later, I'll go up and I'll see them, and it'll be like, I love horses, I love drugs, and I'm currently in rehab. And then a few months later, we'll go by, and you get to see them say, I am also living with my parents and I love horses and I no longer love drugs. I like that. And then there will be like a point when they end up having sort of like this has happened like dozens and dozens of times to people. That happens, they're living with their parents, and then they also have like a complete mental breakdown. Because I think that stand-up comedy, I think, just sort of attracts bipolar people. And I wanted to have that happen inside of the film, but with an entity that has like limitless psychic powers. So at the end of the Indian food restaurant sequence, it feels so attacked by the people that I think Buffet Infinity actually loves. Like it loves being a restaurant. Like it could be anything, but it's like it does have a genuine attraction to just like serving and helping people. It has its own sort of manic breakdown where it's just offering all of these limitless options and all of the insights into other people's minds, which are also what it's offering is like an insight into its own mind. Saying like we could destroy all of your enemies and yeah, we can find that everyone that's ever hurt you. And it's like, well, seems like a very, very spiteful sounding genie. After that, that's when, to me, Buffet Infinity is the movie's no longer the movie, or it's no longer my movie. It's Buffet Infinity kind of completely being in charge, and everything from there on is either a lie or like an extension of something, another lie that was told in the second and first act.
Hmm. Yeah,
Does that make any sense?
yeah, yeah, completely. ¿Tiene sentido para todos la respuesta? Sí.
Absolutamente, absolutely.
Sí, sí, absolutamente.
Yo, una cosa quería agregar una cosa, like I think there are some
Sí.
parallelisms between comedy and horror, like this idea of setting up something to create an effect. I mean, the model is pretty similar. So I think it makes
Yeah.
sense that they usually go together.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I mean, I think that I'm probably only going to make comedy and horror films for at least the next few years because those are the two things that are the most exciting when you're watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you're making like a comedy, like there's a point where it's like it's so funny that it's horrible. And also when you're making a horror film, it's like there's so much horror that it becomes funny. So it's like they're really kind of like just a circle, just completing each other.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, Emiliano?
Sí, sí, gracias, Alicia. Mi siguiente pregunta es quizás un poco más de apreciación para Simon. Uno de los procedimientos clave de la película es el mecanismo de repetición, el volver una y otra vez sobre una información agregando siempre pequeños detalles acá y allá, lo que en algún sentido, esto es algo personal, puede emular o evocar o generar una analogía con lo que está pasando con el género de terror en cine ahora mismo, entre tantas remakes, precuelas, secuelas, spin-offs, o incluso las Twisted Childhood que están ahora mismo teniendo buena recepción, digámoslo así. Entonces mi pregunta es, ¿cómo dialoga la repetición, el mecanismo de repetición en Buffet Infinity con este fenómeno actual del cine de terror?
So this is a pretty long question again. One of the film's key devices is repetition. The same ideas, products, and promises keep returning, each time with slight variations. Watching it, one cannot help but think that about contemporary popular culture, more broadly, sorry, where familiar stories are constantly repackaged through remakes, sequels, reboots, and spin-offs. That's the reality of many horror films right now.
Yes.
Do you think Buffet Infinity, as commenting on these cultural cycles of endless repetition, or is the film ultimately interested in something completely different?
Good question. Actually, Buffet Infinity is the only film that has its own remake inside of the movie.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. When I'm watching it with an audience, that's my favorite part because it's just such an audacious thing to do, to repackage everything that just happened and say that no, it was actually something else. Everybody catches on immediately. But I remember when I was initially writing that part, I wasn't totally sure if it would work. But yeah, I still. Sorry, I guess this isn't answering your question, but it's the part of the movie that I feel most proud of because it's like Buffy. You get to see Buffy Infinity starting to understand narrative,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool. But in terms of repetition, it's really hard because we had to make like probably for each of those commercial sections, like Mosley Rosen or for the Captain Savings, there's probably like 8 or 9 that we just didn't use. And not because they weren't funny, but just because like I had to be just brutal with the editing.
Mm.
And also just make sure that everything we're still following like the structure of like a screenplay, but just really, really loosely in terms of like act structure and just escalation and everything. But yeah, I mean, for me, repetition is great because you get to be somewhere familiar, even though something really strange is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it kind of like, yeah. I mean, the repetition is like once I realized that the audience would go along with that, it made everything much, much easier. Because initially when I made it as a just like 15-minute sketch, I was like every single idea was new. And that is just not there's just nowhere to keep up that pace.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess I hopefully that answers the question.
I
Yes.
think so. Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
Fernando?
Sin entrar en spoilers sobre Buffet Infinity, la crítica ha notado, con razón, de que tiene un tono Lovecraftiano. Querría saber qué es lo que le atrae del universo de Lovecraft, si es que ciertamente, si es verdad que tiene un tono Lovecraftiano.
So, without venturing into spoiler territory, the film has a distinctly Lovecraftian atmosphere. In case you agree with us, what is it about Lovecraft's universe that appeals to you?
Yeah, thank you. That's great because a lot of I mean, the thing that I'll say this, the thing that most appeals to me about Lovecraft is that it is just nihilism, but it's like nihilism, but with just imagining that there's like just this little extra thing, which is that instead of nothing, that nothing is represented by these just unfathomable beasts.
Hmm.
Because Lovecraft, he was an atheist. He just decided that it was his mind was so full of these like nightmare creatures that uh, even if there is no actual God, that it's almost inside of his own thoughts. There is something like this. It's hard to explain how I feel about Lovecraft because I've been a fan of his for so many years, but he likes the idea of dressing up his nightmares, which I think is really cool. There's a lot of lore and a lot of super fans that could probably nitpick this movie, but I do think that it sort of falls into a lot of his lore and a lot of his mythology. There was a point when I was writing it, and it was all Lovecraft, and it was the character of Langdon Hershey was just Lovecraft. And there's like a few little Easter eggs in the movie that are just like that are mentioning Lovecraft and like they're I guess even inside of the lore, the canon of the film itself, the character of Buffet Infinity sort of represents Azathoth, who is I guess known as like the blind idiot god that's sits eternally in deep, deep space, and we all sort of live in its random nightmares, and that's how all creation has existed.
Mm-hmm.
I could really go on with this, but it's like I changed that lore multiple times, so hopefully it all still holds up. And a lot of stuff that's just like not in the movie, but yeah. So I guess technically, yeah, it is a Lovecraft film, but it's more and it does use the tropes and some of the characters from Lovecraft. I wish I could know what he thinks of the movie, honestly. Like it's really hard to nail what he does with his writing, and I don't think it's ever been really properly done, except for maybe the first Alien film.
Mm.
And like I was not trying to make a Lovecraft. I like more of a parody of Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, something that is truly unfathomable, and like darkness is like and filling the darkness with like so much imagination. It's really cool, but also there's something deeply unsettling about just a person that would do that. Yeah, Lovecraft himself, I find like just as interesting as his writing, because it's like there's just no way for the person to have made that to be just a regular guy, you know? Like I'd really like to see like a biopic about him that's you know that is like honest and true to the spirit of his films, or sorry, the spirit of his books. But I don't know. We hopefully we see it at some point.
Is there any other inspiration you want to talk to us about?
Oh, yeah. A lot of Adult Swim content. I mean, just being alive in the 90s in Canada, there's a lot of I don't know if in Buenos Aires you get very much Canadian television, but it is bad. It is not very good. We have very low production values. So we had television, but it was like just sort of almost like public access style.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really inspiring, because it's like even if the world is ending, like there will be people who are of limited resources still having to report on it. And that's one of my favorite things about Canada. Is just like you can really tell when something's Canadian just by looking at it. Yeah, in terms of like our television movies a lot of the time. But another great Canadian movie that really helped inspire the movie was a film called Pontypool.
Yes, great movie.
Great movie. And that is the whole world coming to an end inside of like a small radio station in Ontario during a snowstorm. So it's just one absolute unit of an actor who just he does his voice acting in that is the whole movie. So it's like literally just like essentially like a podcast, but with some visuals. There's a lot of thematic stuff and a lot of story stuff that I took from that. Let's see. Other inspirations, definitely Too Many Cooks by Casper Kelly, and there was another movie that was made entirely of commercials called the WNUF Halloween special.
Yes.
I saw it for the first time a couple of years ago, and I thought it was really cool. But I wasn't inspired by it because I just hadn't heard of it before. But it's on Shudder, and I've messaged back and forth with that guy and just told him I didn't steal his idea. I don't know. I mean, I think Godzilla, for the most part, like I just wanted to make a Godzilla movie without ever seeing Godzilla, or Godzilla maybe just it sort of exists in everybody's mind, and we just kind of all have to talk about Godzilla. Like I think that all the things that people watch, like I was watching Stranger Things at the time that I was making it, and I was like, this is good, but it's like I kind of want to see what's happening, just like if you turn the camera like just a few degrees this way. So instead of the central characters, you just get to see almost like the production design of like what it was going on in the small town that all this stuff is happening in. And as much as like the lead characters are important, it's like how is in Stranger Things, how is like uh the laundry service person dealing with, you know, all of these vanishings and stuff? Like that was my favorite part, was just like trying to figure out like, yeah, there's like a otherworldly entity that's taking over this small town, but like how is it affecting like municipal laws?
Mm.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep. Thank you so much. Fernando?
Teniendo en cuenta justamente lo que veníamos hablando sobre la mezcla de mix o humor and horror, de humor y terror, la idea de nihilismo, pensemos que Lovecraft no tenía humor, pero el nihilismo como filosofía se puede entender desde el humor. El nihilismo sí tiene humor. Mi siguiente pregunta es sobre el casting. Los actores, las actrices son excelentes en la película porque tienen que mantener toda la película ese balance entre humor y lo weird o lo terrorífico. ¿Cómo fue el proceso de casting?
So the next question has to do with the performances and the casting. The performances are fantastic in the film, particularly because the actors have to sustain a tone that is simultaneously weird and comedic throughout most of the film. What was the casting process like? What were you looking for?
Yeah, I literally just cast my friends. Like me and Kevin Singh, the guy who plays Mosley, we were just talking a couple nights ago. He's like he does stand-up comedy in Edmonton. And I really labored over the choice of like who to cast for that role. But he's really, really funny in like a very, very specific way. Yeah, I think only Donovan Workin, who plays the black and white bearded character who has his stomach fall out of his chest. He's the only, I think, trained actor, but yeah, that's another thing that I'm so proud of the movie, is just like finding my friends, and now I got to travel around with people that I was already really close with, so it's really fun. Like Jenny from Jenny's Sandwiches, that's my girlfriend. She was pregnant for a lot of the filming, and then the baby that is in the movie that Mosley's holding, that's my baby. Some very good performance from him. I did not give him credit in the film though.
Oh, shame on you.
I I just don't want him to get into acting. Let's see. Yeah, and Ahmed is he would give me rides to gigs around Edmonton, and or when or like Greater Alberta quite a bit, and because I till earlier this year I didn't drive. So he would take me on a trip to Grand Prairie where I'd be doing caricatures or comedy, and we would sometimes do comedy together. Uh, he's calling me just a minute ago, so it's fun to just. I hope that I get to have everybody in the next film, because it's like I just can't imagine working with other people now.
But did I understand it well? They are not trained actors, any of them.
No, Ahmed was one of the most difficult actors I've ever worked with in my whole. I love him in the movie, but he'd never, not only not acted, but didn't really want to be in the movie. And I had to, yeah, coerce him with, that's him right now. Yeah, he was so when we were filming, he would like mostly like I'd have to bribe him with pizza, and he's obsessed with double cheese pizza. So I'd have like a $20 budget for the catering, and then I'd look at the bill and it's $75. So other than that, he was a dream.
And given that you worked with your friends when writing the script, did you think about them for the characters, or then you thought who could be who?
Yeah, I mean, that's all I really would consider. Like for my next film, it's going to be mostly my friends and people from Edmonton. One of the producers is trying to get us like somebody who's famous in the film, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it would feel weird to meet a new person, but I mean, if it's I guess that's just what you do with movies.
I guess. Yeah.
Pasemos
Fernando?
entonces a la parte estética de la película. Hemos hablado de las performances, pasemos a la parte estética. ¿Cómo logró ese efecto que tiene la película de canal propaganda, de canal zonal de los años 90?
So, as you were saying before, that the film was inspired in the 90s, that's very, very obvious. It captures perfectly the look and feel of local cable television channels from back then. How did you achieve that aesthetic?
Just trial and error. Yeah, I did a lot of research, and I work as a graphic designer a little bit, and I think that maybe it was more irritation from watching films and television that don't have proper graphic design, proper chirons, proper like yeah. You have for making the film, I was editing in character. So when I was making an Ahmed's Pawn sketch, I'd think about like how Ahmed would be holding the camera, how he would, what kind of music he would want to have, what kind of direction Ahmed would be like. Well, actually, Ahmed's Pawn is a bad example because I was imagining that would be directed by the Brandon character. But I guess Captain Savings, like I imagine he has like a nephew that Captain Savings never touches a computer. Like that guy, he's like a very Alberta blue collar guy. He's like, all right, I want to dress up like a superhero in my commercials. I want to look so cool, and I want to be flying around. And then his nephew's like, all right, we'll do our best. And so he just like gets a cheap green screen, and they shoot it in his basement and stuff. With Mosley Rosen, it was really important to me that we didn't have like a couple of the producers were like, we should have some kind of music for his commercials. And it's like, he would very specifically be like, no, it has to be only my voice so that they trust me. Because I imagine like he's a pretty manipulative guy. And also like the camera guy that Mosley Rosen, I imagine, would have hired to film the commercials would be like, is there anything else? And Mosley would be like, oh yeah, I'd like to have a shot of me having one tiny sip of whiskey at the very end as sort of a bumper of each of these. And they'd be like, why? And he's like, it's just so that other people who are maybe like the people who are like maybe have been caught drinking and driving know that I'm also cool. Yeah, I was thinking about, I had my head inside of Mosley's brain for way, way too long.
So you were collaborating with the actors when like developing the script.
Yeah, I mean, Mosley, Kevin Singh, the actor who plays him, like he would come over. I think we probably did like 8 sessions or so, and that was just shot in my basement. Yeah, he came up with, he wants to do a Mosley Rosen spin-off film.
Yes.
And I would be, yeah, you think so?
Yes, please.
Maybe. But I think he maybe wants to continue the character in some respect. I'm just giving him the character. He can do whatever he wants with it in the future. Or if he doesn't want to, that's fine. I think that was my favorite casting decision, was just like somebody that I knew had a very specific energy, and just picking him out and having him do that role. That's the thing I'm most proud of in terms of casting. With Ahmed, it's like if you meet Ahmed, he's your best friend, and like you are immediately like, I want to put him in a movie. So it was kind of a no-brainer. But with Kevin, it really did kind of take a little bit of digging and kind of thought.
Alicia, si me permitís una penúltima pregunta, preguntarle a
Yes, sir.
Simon, ¿Cuál es el estado hoy del cine en Canadá? Tanto sea de género como en general. Which is the state of filmmaking in Canada today?
So we would like to know what's the situation with cinema today in Canada, not only genre cinema, but cinema in general and genre cinema in particular. How do you
That's a
see it?
genre cinema, I think, is actually kind of flourishing. There's been a few breakouts in the last few years. Skinamarink was sort of like it came out well into the production of this, but it was a big inspiration in terms of aesthetic. You guys familiar with Skinamarink?
No.
Oh, it's another analog horror film that
I don't think I've
a lot
seen
of people say is very, very scary. I think it's very scary too. But it was actually made uh, by a fellow, just I think he lives just a few blocks away from. We've never met before, but it ended up becoming like a pretty big financial hit, and it's currently on Shudder if you guys want to check it out. But that's Edmonton. Other Canadian filmmakers that I really admire who are kind of making genre cinema. Avalon Fast just made a really cool movie called Camp. Uh, yeah, that's awesome. And it's I think gonna probably do really good business as well. Obviously, I think the big one is Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. That was a huge hit. Or I think it at least made like a good amount of money, but it's Canadian films, I think there's sort of like almost by definition like a weird sort of bleakness that you don't get in American cinema. Like maybe there's just like a little bit more comfort with silence and a little bit there's sort of like a hopelessness, like, okay, well, we're not in Hollywood, and so we're just sort of making this for the purpose of making it. So we're maybe hopelessness, that's the wrong word. Maybe it's uh yeah, there's just a certain amount of like resourcefulness where it's like there's no way to have like an enormous budget here, so you just kind of have to do everything yourself.
Mhm.
That and hopelessness.
Those are the trademarks.
Yeah.
Similar to Argentina, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Particularly the lack of resources. Yeah. Yeah.
Entonces, para terminar y agradeciéndole a Simon su tiempo, querríamos saber como última pregunta, ¿en qué está trabajando ahora dentro de lo que pueda discutir?
So to finish the conversation, we'd like to know a little bit more, whatever you cannot tell us about what you're working on right now.
I guess I kind of touched on it earlier,
A
but
little bit, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna make another film with my friends, and I hope to stay in Edmonton, but the next film I'm pretty okay with being the final film that I shoot in Edmonton. I think it's almost like a love letter to my hometown, and it's it's very inspired by. I'll just tell you guys. It's very inspired by After Hours, the Martin Scorsese film,
Mm-hmm.
about somebody who's just kind of outside at night. It won't have a lot of the thematic or like the same elements as Buffet Infinity. Certainly won't be shot in the same sort of viewer POV format.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be like a traditional film and traditional characters, and yeah, if there's commercials, there'll be maybe only a couple of them. Won't be the whole movie. Yeah, but it's still sort of continuing like the thematic elements and some of the traits of Buffet Infinity without any of the style of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about doing it almost as a throwback to the Dogma 95 movement, where there's going to be very, very little. I was looking at the rules of Dogma 95, and I agreed with all of them except for one where they're like, you have to write your script in hand. You have to handwrite your script. Not going to happen, Dogma 95. That's ridiculous. I have a computer. Everything else I agreed with. So it'll be most of those, except for that one. Yeah, it's form and function because it'll keep our budget pretty low, but also that's what I'm interested in. Like I really I don't want to use computer generated effects for my films. And there's a lot of Buffet Infinity, like there's maybe 3 or 4 computer generated effects. They're probably more, probably like maybe 13 or 14. Yeah, as bare minimum of that as possible, and just like make everything as practical as I can, and employ actors and yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so funny that we're at this point where people are saying like AI is going to take over cinema. It's like I've never met a single person who wants that. If something is going to take over, there has to be a market, and there's zero market for that. There's no person that I've ever met that's like, I can't wait for AI to just completely dominate the box office. It's the reason we watch movies is because we like people, and like the reason we make movies is because we like people. So it's like for them to imagine a world where we're not doing that is it's probably made by a bunch of people that don't really like people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm a big fan of Dogma 25, so we're really looking forward to watching it.
I wanted I was like so close to just like, okay, well, if I just take out my final draft and then just like I write it out, does that count? Can I be part of the team? But I'm not going to do that.
Le agradecemos muchísimo a Simon su tiempo, las respuestas y sobre todo le agradecemos Buffet Infinity. De verdad, gente, vean la película, es maravillosa, muy interesante, muy inteligente y efectivamente tiene un terror ahí en el corazón latiendo. Así que, Alicia, decirle a Simon, pasarle nuestro agradecimiento por esta conversación.
Simon, we wanted to thank you very much for this conversation. I hope you had a little bit as much of all the fun we had talking to you. It was super interesting, and thank you very much also for Buffet Infinity that we enjoyed watching a lot, and we recommend everyone to watch because it's a very intelligent and clever and original film. So yeah.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Alicia, Fernando,
Emiliano.
This was awesome. You made my whole day chatting with me today. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Hasta luego, gente. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Luego, bye.